What's up, Schwing Dynasty? Welcome to week 10 of Schwing Dynasty football. I know it's hard for things to really seem like they matter all that much right now, but that's why we have to do this. That's why we have to keep on with fantasy football. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but yeah, today seems like something I have to do to talk about this, to talk to you guys about fantasy football. So here we are. We're here for week 10. That says week 8 recap. That is wrong. It's the week 9 recap. Fixing that now. So going to go through week 9. Okay, we're going to jump into week 10's games. I don't really have a comparison here for you guys. It's kind of too far from Thanksgiving to start those. So we're just going to jump in with the game predictions. And that's going to be it for this week. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more about each game then, since I don't have a comp that I'm doing for this one, okay? So not as fun. I like it when I can do the comps. I've been doing more of those this season because it makes it more interesting for me to write. But that being said, this week, right now, it's just the recap and just the games. So here we go. I took down Steve. I took down Steve 213 to 182. Okay, so a pretty decisive win for me. The MVP of this game was definitely JD for trading me Joe Burrow, who got 40.89 points. Saquon actually outscored Joe Burrow, but man, I need another QB. Dak went down. He'll be sidelined for a while, and suddenly I had very little depth. I was looking at Justin Herbert and like Joe Flacco, or Justin Herbert and Derek Carr. I do have Jameis Winston, so I got some players, but Joe Burrow is a lot better than those players. Even if he has his up and down weeks, he's not a running quarterback, and those guys, any pocket quarterback is going to have his up and down weeks. They're touchdown dependent a lot of times, and we've seen that be an issue for like Patrick Mahomes this year. But they don't have, right now, they just got Khalil Herbert. Maybe that'll be their red zone option. They don't have a red zone running game right now. They have to throw. So thanks, JD, for that trade, man. Love that. Steve's dumb sit was Austin Eckler, who had 21 points. Okay, he played Brian Robinson, who did not play. I did the same thing in another league. I thought Brian Robinson would play. I thought he was trying to play. He was a late scratch. We knew he was questionable, but it looked like he was going to play, and all of a sudden he's not in, got 0 points. So the extra 21 points would have made it 213 to 203 for me still. Steve could have taken Bert's honor, though, of scoring the most points in a loss. So that's his dumb sit. Mark upset Bert 195 to 191. It was the narrow victory, and as I said before, Bert had the highest points in a loss. Mark's MVP is Jackson Smith and Jigba with 37 points in DK Metcalf's vacuum, while Bert sat Drake May, who had 23 points in favor of Kyler Murray, who had 7.26 points. Man, Kyler has been one of the most frustrating players this year. As a manager of him in 3 leagues, I feel Bert's frustration with him. I see that he sat him for Drake May in the upcoming week. So, Kyler's frustrating. He's a frustrating player to have in fantasy football right now, because you can see that each week he should be able to be a very productive player, and then it's just sometimes it's pretty good and sometimes it's trash, and there's not really those huge weeks too often right now. So, Drake May got 23 points. And Bert had 7.26 for Kyler instead. Drake May could have secured this victory for Bert, something like that. Lucas went bananas, took down Adam 220 to 180. It was a huge performance from Chase Brown. He got 33.45 points. Hurts scored a lot too, but I mean, come on. You get almost 33.5 from Chase Brown. That has to make him the MVP. It's just not expected. Adam had 22 points total on his bench from around that. It was about 22 points total on his entire bench. His highest bench scoring performance actually would have been Jason Sanders with 9 points, but that just tied his starting kicker, Brandon Aubrey. So there's not really much of a dumb sit here for a good option. So I'll have to go with 8.8 points, 8.8 points from Cam Akers rather than he got 2.1 from Kyle Pitts in the flex. He actually got 0 from Cole Kmet in the starting tight end spot. So if he had moved Kmet into the flex, or Pitts into the tight end spot, and Akers into the flex spot, then he could have had 8.8 more points. Still would have been over 32-point victory instead of 40. Daryl improved to 4-5. Is putting together a hot little streak right now. He beat JD 170 to 132. Kareem Hunt got Daryl 25.5 points, while JD set 26 points from Aaron Rodgers in favor of 10 points for Caleb Williams. So Kareem Hunt's going to be Daryl's MVP in this game, while JD's dump sit was Aaron Rodgers in favor of Caleb Williams. So in the game of the week, Sean took down Phil 188 to 175. This was a close matchup, as we kind of thought it might be. Sean had to get the victory on Monday Night Football with Kate Otten. He had to score like 9 points, and ended up getting like 21. But Devon Achane is Sean's MVP in this game with 35 points, while Phil sat 28 points from DeAndre Hopkins in the favor of AJ Brown, who left early, was injured, only put up 5 points. I don't like to use injured players as the dump sit, but that's, DeAndre Hopkins with 22 points. Did I say that? I think I said that wrong. 28 points. Could have fit in a number of positions for Phil, but certainly this one would have gotten him the win. So that's it. Overall, the MVP of this week is going to go to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Huge week for Mark. Definitely was a major part of him upsetting Bert. And the dumb sit goes to Phil for DeAndre Hopkins. The dumb shit sit of the week goes to Phil for leaving DeAndre Hopkins on the bench and securing himself a loss with that. So on to this week's games, okay? First up, we're going to talk about Amingo Ate My Baby versus ETN Everything Hurts. The current projection is 184 to 163. Currently, we have these are currently two playoff teams with Bert sitting at 4th and Lucas sitting at 6th. Which would put Lucas in a position to play Phil, and the Bert in a position to play Adam in the first round of the playoffs. This is a good quarterback matchup. We got Josh Allen versus Jalen Hurts. Drake May has moved into Bert's super flex position over Kyler Murray, as I said before. But both of those teams, Drake May and Kyler, have difficult matchups this week. Chicago for Drake May and New York Jets for Kyler. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously it would have worked last week for Bert, but Chicago's deep. Oh, man, hold on, guys. I got to get some water here. Okay. But Chicago's defense has looked very good. The Jets defense has looked good. Sauce Gardner is always able to shut down a team's number one. Not shut down, but at least challenge a team's number one. So it'll be interesting to see if that works out for Bert this week. Last week it would have. We'll see what this week, because that's Kyler Murray. He could have 30 points this week. Lucas is rolling Travis Etienne into his superflex, despite a run of poor performances recently. This is a really tough matchup to pick with so many positions, except for the superflex. You got Drake May or Kyler Murray against right now Travis Etienne in the super flex for Lucas, and that's why I got to go with Bert here. Give him the win here, which could propel Daryl into the playoffs possibly if he could get a win. I don't think I have him favored this week, Daryl, but with Lucas sitting in 6th and Daryl in 7th, that's going to be some back and forth there to make the playoffs. I've got Bert winning this game, potentially knocking Lucas out of the playoffs, depending on how things happen underneath him. Okay, next game, D's Nuts versus the Oregon Beer Force. The current projection is 158 to 103, favoring JD. This is a week after Mark took down Bert, scoring in the 190s. Now he has a projection of 103 because it's Seahawks bye week, which means currently there are 5 players out of in Mark's starting lineup on bye. There was even more, but he sat Geno already. DK's hurt. So Mark has 5 spots to fit. These are spots that he won't be able to fill with his core players. I imagine JD's going to manage to get his second win out of this game. JD does have a 2-game buffer to keep the first overall or the highest odds. And it's actually between him and Mark. So losing this game would put another game between him and Mark. So I don't know if JD wants to lose this game. At this point, he could win it and still keep the highest odds. The other person in that position is Steve, who is in a tough matchup with Adam this week. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of tracking now that last playoff position, who's in, who's out, who's on the cusp, and then also that the odds, the odds for the picks. Frog in my throat, guys. I don't know. So yeah, tracking those odds, tracking who would be in that lottery. Remember that the toilet bowl participants, those 4 teams, go into the lottery based on their end of season record, not the toilet bowl. The toilet bowl is just to determine who has to change their name. Bert still hasn't, but the end of season odds are the placement for those. The end of season finish are the placement for those odds, because I want you guys to compete in the toilet bowl, not try to lose it. So end of season odds is the standard for Jesus Christ. It's a day, guys. It's a day. We all know it. End of season results are the basis for the odds, for the draft odds. Okay. Anyways, next game. Let's just move on. The Meat Packers, Meeseeks Meat Packers again. Talking problems versus the Portland Ducks. Daryl v. Sean. It's currently 184 to 139 favoring Sean. Daryl's got an open tight end and flex position right now to fill, so his spread will be a little bit closer. His spread. But Daryl's really pushing for a chance to get into the playoffs right now after he was basically selling this whole season. It looked like he was selling this whole season. Have they played each other every week this year? So even though this is a close projection, okay, no, not a close projection, even though the records are close, we had Daryl on the verge of becoming playoff eligible or playoff in the playoffs, and Sean being number 2 in our league right now, and the head of the Boob Guys division. If they played every week, Sean would be 8-1 and Daryl would be 1-8. Okay, so despite Daryl's recent surge, Sean is averaging 192 points a week, while Daryl is still only averaging 148. That is with some rough early weeks, but the average is still there. Sean has scored more almost every single week, and like I said, there'd only been 1 week all year where Daryl would have beaten Sean that week. So Sean gets the win here. Gives Lucas a little flexibility. Lucas could lose this week and still be sitting at 6th, I believe. All right, on to the next game. Bed Bath & Beyond versus the Paler Broncos. This is Adam versus Steve. The current projection is 177 to 162 favoring Steve, okay? Adam's at 5-4 and in 5th place. Steve is 3-6 in 8th place, okay? So right after Daryl is Steve. And if Daryl loses and Steve wins, in fact, if Daryl and Lucas lose and Steve wins, they would all have the same record, I believe, sitting at 4-6. And I believe Steve would jump both of them possibly on total points. I'm not sure about that. Lucas might have more total points, but it's close, and Steve could surge into 6th place into the playoffs, okay? So Adam's a 5-4, 5th place. Steve's 3-6, sitting in 8th place. Steve actually averages more points per week than Adam, which is why I think it's possible that he would be. It's possible that Steve would jump into 6th place. I know Adam is actually lower on the points though, so I'm not totally sure on that. Adam's dealing with really uncertain situation with CeeDee Lamb, his AC joint, along with Dak being hurt. He already has Brandon Ayuk and Christian Kirk on the IR. He's getting Jameson Williams back from suspension, who could help, but he has had to put Jalen Tolbert into his lineup. That's a very touchdown-dependent player. Happenstance touchdowns, too. If he happens to grab a touchdown, then that's the only way Jalen Tolbert tends to have success. So hopefully CeeDee's all right, and he can be hyper-targeted by Cooper Rush. But Adam's wide receivers are hurting. They've been hurting. It really sucks kind of going down the stretch run of this season that a guy who has gotten some wins, point total maybe is a little bit lower, but to have the wide receiver core just get decimated this way sucks. Steve, on the other hand, has had a rebirth of both Devontae Adams and Courtland Sutton recently, and now he has a decent little stack with Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. King Henry and Kyron have been carrying him. They've been great for him. I think he's going to get a win here because of Adams' wide receiver woes. He's got the favored projection. And I think it's gonna play out that way. That Steve's going to get the win here, and there's a very good possibility Steve could jump all the way into 6th place and be in the playoffs right now. Okay, game of the week: Purdy Balls, me versus I'm here for the trophy, Phil. Okay, this is a projection of 205 to 186 currently favoring me. This is Phil's 3rd straight game of the week. I didn't realize that when I first put this together. It wasn't until I started typing it that this is Phil's 3rd straight game of the week. We're also back to our week 1 schedule, which I also didn't think about because it is week 10. So we've played all 9 of the other players in the league, and now we're resetting back to week 1. That's how our scheduling works. So once I was like, wait a minute, I've played Phil. I was like, oh my God, it's already week 10 somehow. Okay, so going all the way back to week 1, I beat Phil in our opening matchup. Close game, very close game. It's getting there, guys. We're down to the stretch run here. QB matchup is Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert for me against Sam Darnold and Jared Goff for Phil. So we got 2 number 1 overall picks. We got a number 3 overall pick, and we got a number 6 overall pick. That's interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm hoping to get CMC back this week. Hoping he does well if he plays. Phil is hoping for a continuation of DeAndre Hopkins' success from last week as the Chiefs take on a good Denver defense. Patrick Surtain is a great corner. They're sort of like the Chiefs in that they will try to take away your number 1 target. They're a good defense. They have the chance to do that. That's going to be very interesting in this game because you're going to have the Chiefs trying to take away DeAndre Hopkins, Cortland Sutton, because they do that. They take away your number 1 threat. And the Broncos really trying to probably take away DeAndre Hopkins, make someone else beat them. Maybe they're trying to take away Kelsey. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But Patrick Surtain's more likely to line up on D-Hop. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be challenging for both of those receivers. It'll be fun to watch. We'll see. It's a very close matchup. Okay, very, very close matchup. Our averages are 202 per week for me and 196 per week for Phil. So very, very close. I think I've got basically it plays out to about a 60-point difference over this course of the season. That's it. I think Sean or Phil's, is it even that? Yeah, it should be 9 weeks. No, so it's going to be more like a 50-point difference, somewhere around there. And then Sean's about 40 points behind Phil. So we're all within 100 points of each other after 10 weeks of the season. We're all within 10 points a week at the top of the league right now. So it should be close. But, I got to pick Phil here. Okay, Phil with the win. Congrats, man. That's it. All right, guys, that's all for this week. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope everything goes better than what has been going on. So, swing football, man. Just laser focus on that. All right. Peace out, brothers. Have a good one. Bye-bye.